Hi, I'm Jorgie with POCculture.com. I'm so excited to get to speak with you today. Upload has been such a meaningful show for me personally. It was the first series that I had ever covered, and I'm just like a big fan of the show. Uh, First off, I wanted to ask you as a bit of an icebreaker, with the creepy ethics of uploading and the like corporate stuff aside, if
Yeah.
you were in the world, is there like a certain destination that you would be drawn to?
uh, you mean if I would upload, where would I upload?
Yeah.
Hmm. Like I would upload like if there was like something in the moon, something like cool in space. I think like I already experienced Earth, so I don't know if I would like go something like Lakeview. I would like, try to go somewhere like so fantastical that I knew I could have never lived in real life. I think I would choose that. Like
That's really cool. If there were like sci-fi upload or like fantasy, that would be a really cool upload destination. And then secondly, I wanted to ask you, like, of the characters on the show, is there anyone that you think you would be like best friends with? I think like me and Luke would hit it off.
I think so too, like I think probably like Luke would be like he's just like a joy, and I feel like he will like make you laugh when you feel sad and he will have your shoulder. And I think he would him and Aleesha, I love Aleesha too. I think she's like probably like I can see myself being like best friends with Aleesha. She will like, make sure that you're like in you're doing good, but at the same time, like tell it how it is, yeah.
Yeah, I think me, Alicia, and Luke would have like the best group chat. I want to be their friends so badly. Uh, And so, on your background in computer science, I wanted to know how does that come into play when you're thinking about this episode and shooting this episode?
I think I mean it made me I guess like a fan of the show before I came in. I have never seen like a show where they touch technology but make it funny. And it's not really about technology, it's like about how the characters are affected by that technology, which is kind of like more like the real world. And I think that's the reason I resonated with this. And I think I also bring making sure that technology feels like part of their life and it doesn't feel like we're forcing the actors to do something that it feels not part of the daily routine, right? Like of course, like they took with the phones a lot, so that's been established for forever in upload. But like a map or like the memories that we haven't seen that before. How do you explore memories and how do you use these things? And then so trying to make it feel in a way real. I think it was the fun part of this.
That's so cool. So, like, as a fan, before you had jumped into it, I'm really curious, like, was there any certain like technological things in this future that like were really intriguing to you? What like drew you to the show before you had got to work?
I think the idea of what happens after like what can you do after you die? Like I don't think I will ever upload ever, but I did find that like version of it like very interesting. And then every time like Greg, every season like we keep seeing like oh what he just predicted is happening in the real life. So it's like for me that's like also very interesting. But for sure it was yeah, what would it look like if you upload yourself and you have like endless possibilities. That was very intriguing for sure.
Yeah. And so I wanted to ask you, as a director, shooting the scenes in the like the digital space and then bouncing back and forth between real life, what was important for you on your end to distinguish the difference as a director between real life and the afterlife?
I mean, there's kind of like uns unspoken rule on upload. Like usually the real life is shot handheld, and then the Lakeview is shot like with a Steadicam or very static movements, and which is something is broken, but like there's already kind of like a rule to it, and then also how you basically how you light, I think, right? Like usually Lakeview is like perfectly lit and it's very, pretty and warm, and then you feel cozy. But once you go to, the real world, like it could look a little greedy, or it could be a little bit, not only with the camera again, but like how do we make the wardrobe choices, right? Like Nathan in backup Nathan is always wearing like the perfect polo and whatever, and real Nathan is wearing like flannels and different wardrobe that makes you feel like it's more of a real than the perfect Nathan. I think those choices were made. Yeah.
Yeah, and so now I kind of want to get into spoilers a little bit. So for those of you who haven't seen it yet, you can go watch it right now and come back. The first scene with Nora in Lakeview was really surprising to me, and when it was revealed that she's not actually dead, it like blew my mind. So I was wondering, as a director, because you had to fool us. So how did you kind of make the choices to do that?
That's good to know because like we shoot and you never know if like the people are gonna be ahead of us, but that's good that it was like a twist. We were trying. I mean, I think the important thing for that one was like how do we make it feel that it's real but it feels still uploadish, like Lakeview. So we played like the fire, we were toying with different things like does she eat something and it she takes it and it feels a little too real, to be Lakeview, and we ended up going with the fire because that was more visual and makes more sense, and we've seen fire in Lakeview before but never like real fire like this. So we're trying to hint a little bit without hinting too much, so it doesn't feel too out of the blue when the twist is revealed. I think so. We were giving hints that maybe there's something off about this Lakeview.
That's it. Yeah. And so, and with that, I was curious too, because the show is very funny and there's a lot of humor, and you always hear about a lot of scenes being improvised. I was wondering, were there any moments in this episode that were like improvised from the actors?
Uh, I think there's like always like here and there, they improvise a lot about each other, but like the one that was the most memorable for me was like the scene between Ingrid and Nathan after she finds out, that the dad wants to kill her and they're trying to connect again, and then she's trying to grab the ass and then she says like, can I see it as whatever. I think they kept improvising a lot and I was like, directing that I was like literally like laughing, crying after every take. So Allegra and Robbie were like, especially in that space because it's so small. Like I don't think people realize how small that set is, like super small. So it's like it gives a lot of room for them to feel comfortable and improvise. So a lot of their scenes were very playing off each other, which is a joy to see. Yeah.
Yeah, the scene you're talking about, I was crying, laughing. It was so funny. So I had to know if that was improvised. And so now I'm curious, like when you guys are on set, are you guys just kind of like laughing all the time? You're having to like hold the laughter so it doesn't like pick up on the mics. Like what is that like?
uh Basically, and not all the time, but like for me it's like I think for me it was like very surreal again being a fan of the show. So like literally seeing the scene, like a scene I've seen in the show being like I could it's like you're laughing. It's like and like in Lakeview, we tend to have like the what is it, the closet, the wardrobe, like the closet in that's where like they put the directors to watch. And I'm pretty sure like I ruined a couple of takes, but like laugh, like it's just so fun to see them like yeah. So it is like a really fun, easy set to be yeah.
Yeah. And I'm also curious because you hear a lot about challenges of translating, words on the page to like the on-screen finished product. So what is it like translating like humor and comedy from, the script to the final version? Is that like a challenge sometimes? Are there times where certain things don't work? How does that work?
I think because it's season 3 already, and then like the writers on the strengths of the actors, so they cater, they cater to them. Like Luke has that really fun speech about like you can do this, and you're like, and then he keeps going on and on and on. And I think because they know like, Kevin who plays Luke can actually deliver that, like so they're playing up their strengths of every actor, and I think the writers have been very smart about doing that thing, and then usually like the comedy usually works for the most part, and if it doesn't, like the actors are already on top and then figure it out or how to can do this, and then you rehearse with them, and then maybe it's about the blocking, that it was the reason it was not working, or maybe it was they just changed a little bit of a phrase or how they it's just like them figure it out, and it's so easy because they already know the characters, and then so it nothing was like, oh no, this because I mean as I guess in sitcoms where like things are not working and you're like take 40 and no one is laughing, you're like when is this gonna end. This one is the opposite. It's like everyone is like so sharp and on top of everything that it just keeps the machine going, and I think that's the reason, probably like the reason I love the show, because it just feels so organic in a way. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. And like as you mentioned earlier with Ingrid's like personal monologue with Nathan, they get like really close. Was there any scene, because your episode gets really like character driven and really deep with like everyone, with what's going on. Was there an episode, I'm sorry, was there a scene that was your favorite of those? I know it's like choosing your favorite child, but was there one that stood out to you?
I mean, I think when I say that one, like the one that we're referring to, like when they're like trying to bond and then it becomes funny, because I think that's exactly what is very successful about the show, where it's like you can go a little bit, sad or hints of like realness, and then go back to comedy, because at the end of the day, the the show is a comedy, right? So I think because right now I feel like a lot of the comedies are very dramatic, like a lot of the Emmys that you're like best comedy and I didn't laugh, it is half an hour, but I didn't laugh at all. And they're genius and they're beautiful and they're amazing shows, but at the same time, it's like I feel like we're missing that, light-hearted comedy. And I think the reason I love that scene in particular is like kind of like goes deep just enough for you to care, but like with a twist to make you laugh again. And I love that about this show. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. It's so great to meet you and congratulations on the episode.
Oh, thank you, Jorgie. Yeah, it was a pleasure. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Georgie from POCculture.com. I'm so excited to get to speak with you today. I've loved Upload since the first season. It's been such a meaningful show to me personally back then. And then with season two, it was the first series I had ever covered as a journalist. So it's just a real treat to get to speak with the director. And these final episodes are a lot of really intriguing stuff happens. But before we get into the spoilers, as a bit of an icebreaker, I've been asking everybody, with like the creepy ethics and the legal issues aside, if you could upload, is there a particular destination that would interest you?
Wow, that's interesting. I like with the creepy ethics. um, look, I think that Lakeview has some certain things to offer that seem really nice, but I'm not so sure that I would choose to live my afterlife there. On the other hand, what are my options? So far, based on all the options presented in the Upload universe, I'll take Lakeview.
Yeah, watching the show in the beginning, you're like, wow, this is such a cool idea. Like, this is so interesting. And then the more time goes on, you're like, oh, maybe I wouldn't go there or do that. Um, and I've also been asking of the main cast, are there any characters you think you would like get along with really well and be besties if you were in that world? Like I think me, Luke, and Aleesha would just be like the best trio.
It definitely would be a lot of fun to hang out with Luke and Aleesha on a daily basis because they would just make you laugh so hard all the time.
Yeah. And then so I wanted to get to know your background a little bit. When I talk to directors, I like to ask about if there were any particular pieces of media that inspired you to want to get into the craft. Were there any movies that made you want to become a director?
I would say that when I was in high school, I was really taken with all of Alfred Hitchcock's work. And so I would obsessively, this is back in the days of renting the videos, I would rent the videos and watch double features. And I would have friends over, we'd watch double features. And I tried to watch every single one of his movies. And some of them were briefly in the theater and in various retrospectives. So I always loved his psychological, complicated way of creating suspense.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then what is it that you love about directing?
Well, there's so many parts to what make it work and collaborating with talented people that it's hard to choose any one thing. I love working with actors and I love working with the key creatives, whether that's, the cinematographer, the production designer, and having a writer on set and working and talking with them is really, really useful and really fun. And when we all do our best work and everything comes together, it's just, there's nothing like it. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah. So to get into the show a little bit, this season was kind of the most complicated with the introduction of like the digital Nathan and like I guess the organic Nathan, the real Nathan. So what was the most intriguing thing for you as a director to kind of like capture? What was like more interesting to you about directing this on this season? If that makes sense.
This season, well, wait, can you ask me that again? Because I want to make sure I understand what you're asking. Sorry, can you do one more time?
Yeah. No, just because this season was a lot more complicated with the two Nathans and then two relationships. So just as a director, what was the most interesting thing for you to like want to explore?
Well, I thought it was really a nice change of pace for this season to have created two Nathans, so that in addition to downloaded Nathan being able to finally explore a relationship with Nora, you have a different version of Nathan, the backup version, having a relationship with Ingrid that actually takes a totally different turn in that kind of sliding doors alternative way. Whereby once she's actually honest with him early, they're able to have a different kind of relationship. And I love seeing those two versions of Nathan leading very different lives. That seemed really complicated in an interesting way. And then for someone like Nora to have to interface with both Nathans and Ingrid too, it makes for even more layers of the onion to peel back.
Yeah, it's so fascinating how even if you just have that triangle, right, of Ingrid, Nora, and Nathan, there's like jealousy and all that kind of thing. But now there's two Nathans, and then the Nathans are jealous of each other at times, and it just gets their personalities clash, even though it's the same person. Uh,
Exactly.
and
They're slightly competitive, but they're also supportive, and they have a lot in common, but then they differ based on their different trajectories.
yeah, and then I think Ingrid has been kind of a standout this season, especially in like the last three episodes. She has a lot of really good monologues and just like really good like character moments with like when they're going through the memories, she gets really vulnerable with Nathan. And then in episode 7, she has the jokes about um the IT group's parents, what she would do if they kept being misogynist to her, which I was just on the floor laughing. And then in the last episode in the courtroom, so what was working with her like and just seeing her performance on set?
Allegra is a delight, and she's extremely talented. And I think one of the things that's made her character so interesting is that ability that Allegra has to both be vulnerable and likable while also being over the top and unlikable, but in a very funny way, so that you can laugh at her as well as feel for her.
Yeah, her performance, she has those like unlikable qualities, but I still want to be her best friend. Like I just think she would be so funny just to see that in person, you know? And the way her and Nora interact this season has been very intriguing. Um, I have to ask if you could pick a favorite with like Nora and Nathan versus Ingrid and Nathan, like their individual Nathans, do you have a favorite for those two?
Ooh, that's like saying, which of your four children do you love the most? No, I
Hmm.
can't
Pick.
do that.
Yeah.
That's too difficult. Yeah, one of the reasons I think the very ending is of episode 8 is so great is because you're just aghast as a viewer. You're like, what is going to happen next season? Because there's no answer to which one makes it and which one doesn't. That doesn't have something good about it, but something terrible about it.
Yeah. So for our viewers, this is kind of like final warning. If you haven't seen the episodes, go do it. The finale is really good because we're gonna get into spoilers now. But with that, what you mentioned, you don't know which Nathan makes it. I know you can answer, but I'm just like, which one is it? Do you know? Is that already?
So our marching orders were that the footage of Nathan that they see on the TV should be unclear. There shouldn't really be any clues, so that it doesn't tip its hand one way or the other. So if you look for clues, I'm not sure you're going to find them. And even if you think you found them, you'd have as much chance of being right as being wrong, 50-50.
I'm so nosy. Like I really can't wait. I just like I need to know because I love them both, so I'm gonna grieve either way.
Right? I think that's exactly right.
And so I was also curious because in the show we jump around between like the real life and the afterlife a lot. So like from a director's perspective, how do you personally differentiate between like the different worlds?
I think one of the great things about season 3 is you see even more in real life than you did in the prior seasons. Certainly it feels that way to me. Maybe it's because I'm there with Nathan. I know we got some of that with Nora before, but anyway, I would say that we were very conscious to show that in real life, the world is not so great. There's a decent amount of poverty. There's a lot of haves and have-nots. There's, trash flowing out of the trash cans. In Lakeview, everything's picture perfect. There isn't a, dead flower, unless it's purposefully dead. So, everything is picture perfect because it's virtual and it's meant to be positive afterlife situation. Unless you go to like the first floor, right? The first floor,
Right.
don't go to the first floor. But anyway, so yeah, we were very conscious when we chose a location that if we were going to show a park that was meant to be Lakeview, it had to be a beautiful version of the park. And if we were going to go to a park to show, Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, that needed to not be so gorgeous. That had to also have more reality to it.
Yeah. And with that, I wanted to ask about the courtroom scene again. So like getting into spoilers when it doesn't go quite the way we want. I'm just curious, was that surprising to you, like when you were reading the script, and how did that go about to kind of like deliver that to us so that we just feel that like gut punch of like, oh, we got it, but we didn't.
Yeah, I think that one of the things we talked about with the walk that Nathan and Nora do from the back of the courtroom to the front of the courtroom to talk to Holden is that they haven't realized yet that it's bad. So when they come forward, it's still all good. And they feel like, oh, everyone's around us is celebrating and we won. This is great. We won. Da, da, da. And it's a growing realization that maybe the agreement, the settlement agreement, didn't work out in favor of people like Nathan. So that turn is effective because it happens only after they get there. And that therefore, if they're not happy with that, when Holden says, maybe you're not cut out to be a lawyer, I think there's some truth to that. Maybe she isn't, because in a way, the court case is successful, but in another way, of course, it's not.
Yeah. And so I'm gonna ask you to pick a favorite child again. Do you have like a favorite scene or if you want a favorite day, like was yours just a favorite part of these episodes that were particularly like interesting to realize from the script?
I really enjoyed the scene where Ingrid is in Lakeview as Nora's avatar and she's testing Nathan, because we were filming that in two ways, right? We filmed Ingrid in the bathroom, and then we filmed Nora's avatar with Andy in the Lakeview scenes. And so we got to do those scenes twice, and we got to do those scenes with each of them. And Andy actually made a point of coming to the day of filming where we filmed Allegra in the bathroom, because she wanted to hear just how she said things. And so she was really committed to doing those scenes the way she imagined she would hear Ingrid's voice imitating Nora. And then we had a lot of fun with trying to do different versions of that, some that were a little over the top and some that were more grounded, but all of which were true to Ingrid's voice.
Yeah, I just gotta add that like the visual of Ingrid in the bathtub is so funny because she's like in like you all elegant and then you just see her in the tub. All of
Right, in
that.
the horrible suit, yeah.
In the horrible suit. I do want to know also, is there a favorite episode in this season that you didn't direct, if you had to pick a favorite?
I don't think I have a favorite episode, but I do think that because I've seen it a bunch of times, one of my favorite scenes is a real simple one. It's just when Aleesha is teaching the AI guys about the word okay. I mean, that to me was like perfect in terms of the complicated word okay, right? It's complicated. That could mean 7 or 8 different things. To me, that just makes me laugh every time I see it. So I appreciate that scene.
Yeah, I really could. Okay, you know. Um, and
And at
so
the end, he goes, okay. And he goes,
okay,
F. That was great.
it's about to go down. Um, And speaking of it's about to go down, I just wanted to know about like filming some of the more chaotic scenes, like the ending of Seven when they're watching Blue Guy, I believe it was, because he's not Blue Man,
Man Solo.
dance, Blue Man solo, and then of course the like the delivery the thing comes, and then it, you know, erases our witness. So what is that like shooting a more like hectic scene versus because the rest of the series is more like upbeat and comedic, and then that one is more kind of not, you know, it's more tension filled.
Yeah, well, the ending of Seven had a lot of ambitious beats to it and to the climax. And so we had, of course, a big scene up in the law office with a lot of people reacting to the things that they saw and with the good news for Nathan and Nora. And then we had this, carnage down below. And so we made a lot of, I storyboarded it and we had a lot of discussion about how much we would see. And I wanted to really be careful about the two very different tones, the tone of something serious happening down below and the tone of something great happening up above. And also the blue dude solo is funny too, inherently. So there's still some humor, but so anyway, there's a bit of a roller coaster of tone. And that day down in the plaza was a very busy day. We had a crane doing some, point of view shots. And we had, the aftermath of the explosion. We knew we didn't want to show an explosion. We were going to do that off camera because that's more true to the humor and we don't need to see a lot of blood and guts and such. But it was very time consuming. So we knew we had a lot of pieces to get done that day. And I was running around, trying to wrangle everybody and make sure we got our best pieces that we needed all before the sunset. So it was definitely a hectic but exciting day.
Yeah, and so like kind of with that, you're talking about the different kinds of scenes, the different tones. I'm curious because Seven and Eight has there's like a very romantic scene, and then there's also like very funny, and then very serious, and like the courtroom. Is there any in scenes in particular that were kind of challenging to realize from script to screen?
I would say just the two action, climaxes at the end of Seven and the end of Eight. They just had a lot of moving parts, and that's what makes them a little more challenging. But as long as you prepare and you have in mind the pieces that you need, and we discuss as a team how much time we need to make it happen, and you're never given quite enough time that as you wish you had. So, given that you don't have quite enough time, you have to choose which pieces you need and which pieces you can get at the same time as each other because you have two cameras, and to try to just get as many pieces as possible so that when you're in the editing room you have the material to make it exciting.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for speaking with today. It was great to meet you, and congratulations on the series season finale. It was really good.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.